What's up, boxing fans? This is TBE Boxing, back at you again. Today's topic: Tyson Fury is getting no credit for giving the Predator Ngannou the opportunity of a lifetime. Let's chop it up and see what it's all about.
Got the money for minutes, pretty bitch, gotta show me titties. This is the life that I chose, huh? On the block with the pole, huh? This is the life that I chose, huh? On the block with the pole, huh? Just like it for Richard, huh? And I got the glizzy, run up on me, I'ma make you get it. I'ma make you get it.
He got sloppy, and Ngannou just scored a knockdown. Well, what do we have here, folks? They got this fight.
That was the greatest crossover performance
By far.
I have ever witnessed in
By
my
far.
entire life. Fred.
Okay, boxing fans, let's talk some boxing. All right, so you just saw the clip. That was Tyson Fury getting knocked down by Ngannou, and that was the knockdown seen and heard around the world. Okay, that knockdown went around the globe, and now Francis Ngannou is a household name, a man that most people never even heard of before, unless they watch UFC. Okay, in terms of boxing. But now Francis Ngannou is a household name. He's the face of the heavyweight boxing, and none of that would have happened if Tyson Fury didn't take this fight with Ngannou. So today we're going to be talking about, why is it that Tyson Fury is not getting any credit for giving Ngannou the opportunity of a lifetime. At the end of the day, now a lot of people are throwing dirt on Tyson Fury. They're talking negative about him. I mean, the truth be told, uh, there's a lot of negative stuff to be said about Tyson Fury. But at the end of the day, you got to give credit where credit is due. And the fact of the matter is, if it wasn't for Tyson Fury, Ngannou would have never had this opportunity to become the face of the heavyweight division and to be in a position to where he is now. That you have Matchroom and you have Deontay Wilder and his team trying to get negotiating to fight with Ngannou. Now I'm thinking that the Ngannou Deontay negotiations are talks, if you want to call it that. I'm not sure if it's a negotiation, but I think they're in negotiations now. But they were talking before. That was going on for a while now. I was supposed. Now I don't know if it was before the Ngannou uh, Fury talks, because we actually saw the Fury Ngannou fight come off. It wasn't just this was just a matter of talk. This fight happened and happened first, and we saw Fury promoting that fight. And talking about the fight, even though he was getting a lot of opposition and a lot of flack for the fight, because now a lot of people are jumping on the Francis Ngannou bandwagon right now. But prior to the fight between him and Fury, a lot of people was saying it was a gimmick. Nobody was going to watch it. Even you know Matchroom Eddie Hearn said he had came to Joshua with the fight about with a fight with Ngannou previously, and Anthony Joshua said he didn't want no gimmick fights. He wanted a real fight or whatever. Now we see Eddie Hearn, frothing at the mouth and, and chomping at the bit to get a fight with Ngannou and Joshua. Okay, so you know how the tables have turned. So my point is that none of that would have happened, without Tyson Fury. Uh, at the end of the day, because now we know that Ngannou was used to be with the UFC, right? And for those that don't know, Ngannou was actually a UFC heavyweight champion, and but he had some disagreement with UFC about money. They weren't really paying him much money for the fights that he already had with UFC under the contract that he had, and the fight that they wanted to uh, do with John Jones in the heavyweight division, uh, that didn't that fight didn't wasn't paying that much according to Ngannou. That fight wasn't paying much either. So he wasn't really getting offered what he thought he was worth for a big fight like that with a big star like John Jones, who has been the perennial UFC star now for years. And John Jones, he's the number one guy over there at the UFC, along with Conor McGregor and Adesanya and a couple other top guys. So disagreement between Dana White and Ngannou led to Ngannou, deciding to leave the UFC and take his chances and basically just bet on himself. And when he left the UFC, they didn't leave under good relations. Dana White basically dissed Ngannou, saying that he was leaving because he didn't want to bet on himself, and that he wanted to to take a easier fights for big money. Basically saying that Ngannou was lazy and didn't really want to fight nobody and just wanted to get easy money. That's basically what Dana White said about. I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what it comes down to. That's what could be interpreted about what he said. So it was a very negative parting of the ways, to say the least. A lot of acrimony between Dana White, mostly on Dana White part, I would think. Because I think he was, being the kind of guy that he is with the plantation mentality. He thought that Ngannou, should just take what he get and just be quiet, basically, and that whatever he's paying Ngannou, is much more than what Ngannou ever got anywhere else, and that he should just take the money and fight and shut up. That's Dana White's uh, perspective, in so many words, and really that's how he runs the UFC. Take it or leave it, my way or the highway type of mentality. Which is why you know there's a lot of complaints about this pay structure in the UFC, and I think there's some kind of antitrust business going on right now against them. So there's a whole bunch of stuff going on with the UFC in terms of fighter pay, or the lack thereof. They're not paying fighters what they're actually worth, and a lot of these fighters are broke. And a lot of them want to try and do crossover fights just to make money with boxing, So you even have some fighters who are like boxing and, you got, uh, and doing MMA. But anyway, suffice to say that the parting of the ways between Dana White and Ngannou was basically acrimonious and, situation, and there was no love lost between them. Again, most of the animosity coming from Dana White, basically. And so Ngannou left, and he was basically, he was out on a limb, basically, and the limb got cut off, and he was just they cut the limb from under him, and basically left him, to sink or swim, or to fall, basically. So in in that atmosphere, so now we have Ngannou. He used to be the heavyweight champion of the UFC, left unceremoniously. Didn't he really get any? Really, it wasn't a pretty exit. But he landed on his feet by getting a deal with the PFL, who the PFL is another promotion. That PFL is run by Dom Davis. Excuse me, Don Davis. He's the chairman and co-founder, and there's another guy that's the CEO. I forgot his name, but Don Davis, you know, he's the chairman and co-founder. So anyway, Ngannou ended up getting signed by the PFL under some kind of a real, unprecedented deal between them, because they were looking for a marquee name, and Ngannou is a MMA marquee name, being the heavyweight champion of the UFC, the most popular MMA franchise out there right now. I mean, there's a lot of other guys out there: Bellator, Ryzen, uh, Glory, and the PFL, just to name a few. But the most visible one is the UFC, and to a certain extent Bellator, and then who else? I think Rising is pretty well known. Glory. So PFL is basically a new guy on the block, and they were trying to get a higher profile, and so they signed Ngannou, which is a smart move on their part, and they didn't really restrict him from attempting to get a big time boxing match, which is what he was trying to do under the UFC, and they wouldn't let him do it because they wouldn't pay him the money he wanted, but they wouldn't let him make a fight. They wouldn't even let him go ahead and get a fight, with one of the heavyweight champions. They didn't support him with, in that. So there was, Dana White was taking a hard line position basically, and when you look at it at the end of the day, and you say to yourself, why would he take a position like that? I mean, he didn't do that with Conor McGregor. So I'll leave you to draw your own conclusions as to why Dana White decided to take that position. But it is what it is. So now Ngannou signs with the PFL. They signed a great deal. They set up some kind of promotion to different countries, and including Africa, with Ngannou being the head of the Africa division. Okay, the Africa promotion, and Ngannou ends up, you know, I don't know how it came about that him and Fury decided to talk about fighting, but whether Fury was the one that approached him because he had said that he wanted to fight in the fight a heavyweight fighter, or what the situation was. But the bottom line is, Fury was the first one, I guess, to jump on the bandwagon, and him and Gunner decided that they were going to fight. They started making appearances together, and next thing you know, the fight was signed, scheduled, and delivered in almost no time at all. Basically, if you really look at it, okay. So now Fury got a lot of flack for this fight. A lot of people say he was ducking Usyk. He didn't want to fight the guys at the heavyweight that he's supposed to be fighting. Why is he fighting an MMA guy? It's a wash. He's gonna knock this guy out in 2 rounds. It's a gimmick. It's a joke. You name it. They were saying it against Fury, and Fury just, being Fury, which is one thing I like about Fury. Regardless of everything else about him, you have some negative things that you can say about Fury, but one thing I like about Fury, even with all the negative stuff, is that he's a guy with his own mind. Okay, if he decides to do something, he's gonna do it. He don't really care what anybody else think about it. And I love that. So he just said, the hell with it. I don't care what you guys think, really. We ain't gonna have a fight, and that's that. End of story. And so, he stuck to his guns, even though he was getting, I mean, I'm talking about massive criticism. Okay, massive. Many of the people that you see right now jumping on the Ngannou bandwagon, uh, you know, uh, but talking about Ngannou fighting Dante Wilder and all of this now, all these YouTubers and people like Fannin and the usual suspects. Now the reason they are jumping on the fan, but before the fight, they was criticizing Fury heavily. And when I say heavily, I mean heavily, for taking this fight with Ngannou, because they didn't see that any. They saw it as a joke. It's a gimmick. He was just he should be fighting Fury or Deontay Wilder for the fourth time or whatever. I mean Usyk or Deontay Wilder for the fourth time. So uh, this is what this is what Fury had to put up with, basically. Now the fight happened. Okay, Ngannou does a great job, knocks Fury down. Now everybody's in love with Ngannou, okay? Which, I mean, there's a lot to be in love with. I mean, he did a great job, so you can't knock that. He did what he was, he did what a lot of people didn't expect him to do, and he did it well. So he outperformed, he overperformed, over expectations basically. So now, there's a lot, these bandwagon jumpers. Everybody jumping on the Ngannou bandwagon now and bashing Fury, saying that Fury looking terrible. He didn't train, this, that, and the other. You did, anything to bash the man, okay? But before the fight was supposed to be a joke, right? It was going to be a joke. It's a stunt. It's a gimmick. But now the fight, is over with. Instead of saying, okay, gotta give Fury credit. He took a fight. It was a tough fight. No, they're saying that he's a joke. He's this. He's that. you know, because he took a, Ngannou made him look bad. He embarrassed boxing. I mean, you name it. Nobody. I mean, you got to give credit where credit is due. I mean, yes, Fury didn't look his best in the fight, but at the end of the day, he took the fight, and if he hadn't taken the fight, we would not have been blessed to have Ngannou now be the face of the heavyweight division, and nobody would really know about Ngannou that he had that type of boxing skills. And so basically, you can say in a kind of a roundabout way that Fury discovered Ngannou when it comes to boxing. He discovered him. That's his discovery. So he should be getting credit for that, right? But no, everybody is bashing Fury. I mean, there's a lot to bash Fury about, but not in this case, okay? In this situation, I think Fury deserved to get a lot of credit for taking this fight. Even with all the opposition that we saw out there, and there was a lot of it. So it wasn't a small opposition by any means. A lot of people was piling on Fury about taking the fight. It's a joke, it's a gimmick, this, that, and the other. Now those same people are talking about how this joke, this gimmick, this duck that he was trying to pull, you know, embarrassed him, without giving him credit for saying, okay, well, he took the fight and it was really a tough fight. So maybe Fury knew what the hell he was doing. Maybe, even while we was thinking it was going to be a gimmick fight, Fury knew that it was going to be a tough fight. And maybe he knew it was going to be a tougher fight than people expected, than people thought, or or maybe, as some people are saying, oh, he thought that, Ngannou, he took Ngannou lightly or whatever the case may be. Whether he took Ngannou lightly or not, whatever, if he didn't, if he did, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. What really matters is that Ngannou got the opportunity because basically he was left out there to drown by his promotion, the UFC and Dana White, okay, and he just so happened that he stayed afloat, based on his own initiative, and he went out there, believed in himself, and got the fight with Tyson Fury, and now the rest is history. So at the end of the day, we gotta give credit where credit is due, and I think that we need to give Tyson Fury credit for making this fight with Ngannou. If we never did this fight, we'd never got to see the Ngannou that we saw. We'd never got the opportunity now to see Deontay Wilder might be fighting Ngannou, Joshua might be fighting. So and now and the heavyweight division would never been injected with this much energy, that it desperately needed. Okay, so basically, you can really say Tyson Fury saved the heavyweight division in a kind of a oblique, roundabout kind of a way. It's kind of surreal and ironic, but yeah, that's what it comes down to. Tyson Fury saved the heavyweight division by fighting Ngannou, brought excitement back. So all of this talk about it being a sideshow and this and that, it was no side. It was far from being a sideshow. It was very entertaining. The numbers, prove it out, and people love the fight. And we're talking about a rematch, and seriously talking about a rematch. Okay, so this there could be a rematch, and now there's heavy negotiations between Deontay Wilder and Ngannou, and between Joshua and Ngannou and Joshua. And so Ngannou is now the man at heavyweight division, getting a lot of accolades to the point where you have the UFC, the people in the UFC, bashing Dana White for losing Ngannou because Dana White, I guess he thought the UFC was too big to fail, or it's too it was bigger, much bigger than Ngannou, and they didn't need an Ngannou. But as we can see, Ngannou is a bona fide star now. The PFL is, with Don Davis is dancing with jumping, jumping for joy, because at the end of the day, Ngannou is a PFL fighter under the PFL promotion, and any kind of promotion that Ngannou gets from here on in, the PFL is going to be associated with that. So now the PFL just became not only a force in MMA, but the PFL is also a force in boxing. With the fact that Ngannou is one of the top guys in boxing right now. So it's looking good for the PFL right now as opposed to the UFC. You know what I mean? And there's also this big controversy going with the UFC about signing some contract with Anheuser Busch and the whole LGBTQ thing and the child sex change. A whole it's a big mess over there with UFC and this whole $100 million contract with Anheuser Busch. There's a lot of people been boycotting Bush, Anheuser Busch, Bud Light, all of that. They've been basically boycotting them for a couple of years now, and so Dana White done got himself done stumbled over that whole mess, and he's now caught up in it. And there you have people out there talking about they're boycotting UFC now for signing, and not only are they mad about the fact that uh, Dana White lost Ngannou, they are also mad about this whole Bud Light situation. So it's a big mess for Dana White right now and the UFC, while the PFL is on the rise. So yeah, this big things happening for Ngannou and for the PFL. Because they're associated, and there's talk of this fight between Ngannou. There's talk about a fight between Ngannou and Deontay Wilder in the in MMA first, and then the boxing match, which would mean that that fight would happen. If there's going to be an MMA fight between Ngannou and Deontay Wilder, it's going to happen on the PFL banner, and it might happen in Africa because that's where the Africa division is the one that Ngannou is responsible for in terms of the PFL and their promotions. So there's a lot of big things going on right now for Ngannou, and not just for Ngannou, but for anybody associated with him like the PFL, and also uh, even Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder, because now people is looking forward to a fight between these three guys, whatever the mix might be. And so, it is basically it's more excitement in the heavyweight division right now. It's becoming exciting again, and we can all, at the end of the day, lay all of that at the doorstep of Tyson Fury for taking it. Just that one act of taking this fight with Ngannou produced all of these effects. And so, at the end of the day, whatever you want to bash Tyson Fury for, we got to give him credit for the fact that he took this fight and even against the opposition, people, criticizing him for taking it, say it was going to be a joke fight. He stuck to his guns, and the fight happened, and it was a great fight. Everybody loved the fight. The people that was complaining, they love it. All of a sudden, now everybody's under the bandwagon of Ngannou, but nobody's giving Tyson Fury any credit. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for his choice to make this fight. Maybe he saw something other people didn't see. He's at the end of the day, Tyson Fury, is an entertainer. I mean, he's a great singer as well. If you ever heard him sing, so he's really an entertainer at the end of the day. And he made an entertaining fight between him and Ngannou, and we all loved it. And we should be thanking Tyson Fury for the fight instead of criticizing him. No wonder the man want to retire from boxing again. But anyway, with that said, I'm going to leave it there. This is TBE Boxing saying, I'm out.
Got them out of a minute, pretty bitch, gotta show me titties. This is the life I chose, huh? On the block with the pole, huh? This is the life that I chose, huh? On the block with the pole, huh? That life before Richie, huh? And I let the glitzy run up on me, I'ma make you get it. I'ma make you get it.